Welcome back to Wave Dalker. Another Dalker reviews. Just watched episode 7, the penultimate episode of The Penguin, titled Top Hat. And yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Spoiler warning, obviously. I got a comment on my last video about not providing a spoiler warning, but I think it's kind of common sense if you're watching a video about an episode of a show that it's gonna have spoilers, but spoiler warning for episode 7 and every other episode of The Penguin, most likely. Titled Top Hat, which I like, Penguin's iconic. One of his more iconic motifs alongside the monocle and like the umbrella gun. Obviously we didn't see a top hat in this episode, but I just like that I like that sort of illusion. I appreciate that. This is actually, I think, the shortest episode, which is kind of a bummer, but I think the last one's gonna be the longest, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, titled Top Hat. We're following up. Penguin got the power restored, or Oz got the power restored in Crown Heights and all the poorer neighborhoods after threatening the councilman. And we close on Vic and Francis Cobb dancing in their makeshift apartment, and then we see Sophia Falcone, or Sophia Gigante, walking with a crowbar, and that's where the episode ends. And we're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? So we open this episode. Oz is walking up, and he sees the power's back on. He's all right, cool. And then he walks in and he sees that the house has been broken into. Francis is gone. But Vic is there. He got knocked out. And we don't see Vic after Oz tells him to leave for the entire episode. And we see like in the teaser that he's like getting caught up in some other things, but we don't see him for the rest of the episode. So I'm really curious to see what he got into, and hopefully that gets explained in the next episode. But Sophia just came in, knocked out Vic, and took Francis. And I was like, all right, shit, well, you got to go and warn everybody, get out of here. I don't want you getting involved in this. He's like, they're coming for me. Don't, get out of here. And then Vic leaves. And then Salvatore and all his other cronies come in. And he starts whacking up with a golf club. And Oz is like, hey, you got my mom. Let's not trip about this. And then we get some flashback stuff. We find out that Oz was the one that actually caused the death of his brothers. It was kind of just like his brothers had died. Like that was like the implication. There wasn't any sort of rhyme or reason given, but we find out that he took offense to the fact that they hid in a spot he couldn't really go after, so he trapped them in like a floodgate, or like an overflow chamber in the tunnels, and then they drowned, and he just was watching Singing in the Rain or some shit with his mom. I was like, oh damn, that's like fucked up. And like, I mean, obviously he's the bad guy, like we're rooting against him, but I was like, damn, like that's heavy. Like every episode is just a new thing that's being provided. They're like, oh yeah, fuck Oz. But I'm also still I'm rooting for Oz, because I like the Penguin as a character. I just rewatched the Batman a few days ago for Halloween. Obviously, my favorite movie ever. And he's just such a great character. I love the Penguin. Yeah, we get some flashback stuff. His mom's in hysterics. They go dancing, and she's like, you gotta take care of me, Oswald, you gotta take care of me. And the accent, I think, is hilarious that they all do. So great child acting, which I appreciated. Not appreciated, but I like that. Like, usually I feel like a lot of child actors just kind of, they gave good performances, and it was a good part of this episode. But yeah, flashbacks aside, so Salvatore takes Oz to the operation, the Bliss operation, the underground Bliss operation. He's like, you work for me now, blah, blah, blah. And then they cut the power. And then, shit breaks loose. And then Oz and Salvatore are fighting in a train car. And, they're exchanging blows. Oz rips the gun out of Sal's hand. And then Sal just has a heart attack and dies. I'm like, damn, really? Like, that's how we're killing, one of the big players in, the Batman universe organized crime. Like, he's a heart attack? Like, really? And I was kind of bummed because, based on the fact that Matt Reeves took, some inspiration from The Long Halloween comic book by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, I was hoping that Salvatore was going to live long enough to be able to, throw acid in Harvey Dent's face, if that is, becomes a plot, Harvey Dent's introduction becomes a plot point in the Batman Part 2 or 3, but I guess since he's dead, that won't happen. But maybe Sophia will do it, maybe Oz will do it, I think that's still a possibility, but I was like, oh, dang, we won't get to see, Clancy Brown, Salvatore Maroni in a future Batman film, which is kind of a bummer, but I thought it was also, it's one of those things where, like, it subverts expectations and it kind of works. Like, you kind of expected this huge sequence and kind of Salvatore to remain a player throughout the entire show, and then he just has a heart attack and dies, and then Oz, like, pops a few caps, and he's like, hey, I beat you, and it's funny, like, kind of like what's the phrase? Oh my god. Like when vocal interpolation. It's not really interpolation, but it's similar to the car chase in the Batman when Batman's like, I got you, you freaking psycho, I got you. He says that kind of same thing to Salvatore, like, I got you, Sal. And I thought that was a neat sort of, similar vocal callback. And then Oz is like, all right, well, we got him. Like, I took care of Maroni. And then he calls Sophia. And Sophia's, talking to Francis, and Francis is not really giving their time of day, which is awesome. Deirdre, I think her name's like Deirdre McDermott, wonderful actress. I thought she's been great this entire show. And it was nice to see her kind of shine in this episode. And the actress that got to play the younger version of her was also fantastic. But, her and Sophia were chatting it up, and Francis was not really giving her time of day. And Sophia and Julian were like, you know what, I want Oz to suffer. And then they kind of, Sophia gives in to Oz, being like, hey, just give me my mom. You can have the Bliss operation. And they agree, and then Oz, they're prepping, they're getting all their guns ready, and then he's notified that a black G-Wagon's driving into the tunnel, and it gets in there, and then Sophia picks up the phone, and we're led to believe, with clever editing and such, that Sophia is in that car talking to him, and he's like, hey, what are we gonna keep staring at each other this whole time? And then the driver gets out of the car, and there's a really clever cut, which I appreciated, where it goes when Oz goes over to the G-Wagon and opens the car door, it cuts to Sophia getting the car door open, and you're like, okay, maybe they are in the same spot. But then she steps out and she's outside, and you're like, oh shit. And then Sophia's like, hey, I got something for you in the trunk. Opens the trunk, it's a bomb, womp womp. And another case of Oz being a shitty person. He doesn't let anybody else in the building know that there's a bomb. He just kind of, makes his getaway there. Not that they really had a chance. Like, the safest place evidently seemed to be where Oz went, which happened to be the same place where his brothers died. But, shitty Oz doing shitty things. He doesn't let anybody know. Everybody dies. He, creates, a sinkhole. And then he comes to. He goes out. Everybody, there's screaming and sirens and everything. And then that one shitty cop guy, knocks him out. And that's where the episode ends. So, shorter episode, but a lot happened. Maroni died. The Bliss operation kaput. It's done. Sophia just wants to get rid of Oz and then be free. That sort of seems to be where her head's at. She still has Francis. Vic's nowhere to be found. We got a preview of next episode. Not a lot was shown. Just a lot of brief conflict shots. But yeah, I'm really curious. I think the last episode's an hour 15. So I'm excited to see how jam-packed this next episode is going to be, and this last episode. And Matt Reeves has stated multiple times that this show ends at a very particular point in time, and that's going to be where the Batman Part 2 picks up. So my, pipe dream hope is that we get a Harvey Dent cast, or a Harvey Dent just, illusion. Or, I think that's really the most realistic thing. That's, the most realistic, Batman nerd, connection to the bigger universe kind of thing that we would see in this show. It's been really secluded, which I appreciate. I love the Batman. It's my favorite movie ever, but I appreciate that it's doing, it's being its own separate entity entirely, besides the fact that there's Penguin and there's, you saw Chief Bach and you saw a few other characters. It's being its own thing. It's not constantly feeding back to the movie. But my, bigger picture, I would love to see this happen. I would love to see Harvey Dent reveal in the final episode. because that in my mind puts the universe in a certain point that would make sense to pick up from in the Batman Part 2. But we'll see. I don't want to get my hopes too high up there, but that's my pipe dream, like, fingers crossed. That'd be super sick. But another great episode. This show has been fantastic so far. It's been just the right thing to hold me over in between, obviously. I mean, you know, movie came out in March 2022. Part 2 is coming out October 2026. It's going to be a while, but this is a nice, you know, middle ground thing to hold me over until, and give me, you know, 8 hours of content in, like, my favorite movies universe. That's awesome. Great episode. Episode 7, Top Hat. Thumbs up for me. That's it. I'll see you guys for the final review of The Penguin next week. Peace out.